All right, John. Thanks for chatting with us today about Albert Beach on November 18th, 2021. So, how did you meet Albert Beach?
I believe I met Albert at a Los Angeles Printmaker Society annual meeting. It was around 1990, and I can't nail that down exactly. And I invited him to Josephine Press because being printmakers, it's a small world out there. And so anyway, Albert came in and visited me at the shop, and we became friends from that moment on.
So, what kinds of changes have you seen in Albert's work over the years?
Well, both Albert and I have similar backgrounds, paths, in involving printmaking, and we're about the same age. So, what I've seen from Albert over the years, and I've known Albert for 30 some years now, is that Albert was a very dedicated printmaker. Printmakers are known to be fastidious, attuned to including details in their work, and spending hours and hours on the technique. And so Albert's work was indicative of that description. His work was very colorful, but it was using many techniques, complicated and sophisticated techniques. And over time, like with most artists, as they mature, and we can talk about the Picassos and the Rembrandts and Robert Rauschenbergs, that artists start out usually being very depictive to detail and tightly rendered imagery. And as they evolve, they find more playfulness in their work and their application. And so Albert's application and renderings in his work has gotten more playful, and I'll say loose. And not in a bad way, but in a very nice way. More fluid, loose lines, more iconographic and playful. And also with that playfulness, time becomes less critical. In other words, he's not spending a week on one area of a plate. He may spend only a day on it. Anyway, more playful and more expressive, I'd say. His life is dedicated to making art, and he works at it each and every day that he possibly can. He has a house, and the bottom floor is his dedicated studio, print shop. So he just works at it continually. So I like that about an artist who is dedicated. It's about having fun for him, I think. His work is reflective of his life and his lifestyle. He owns a house in Silver Lake, California, and he has a house in the hills of Tuscany. I guess he has a colorful life, living in Italy half the year and living in Silver Lake the other half of the year. And the beautiful environment up there in Silver Lake is kind of similar to the hillsides and the architecture, the houses and the streets and the fields of Tuscany. So it's sophisticated, but at the same time, it's his life. He's reflecting his life in his artwork. Art reflects life, and life reflects art in his work.
What's your favorite work of his?
I like all of his work, but he did a whole series of maybe 7 to 10 three-plate color etchings, and it must have taken him several years or more to produce these. And they're very beautifully rendered and colored and compositional of the hillsides of Silver Lake and the homes. And then he also goes into a little more playfulness when he's dealing with his sensuality and sexuality, maybe. And one work that a couple of works that I really like, and the two pieces that I published for Albert were Ocean Fantasy, and the second one is called Hairshed. And both of these works were pulled out of previous drawings that Albert had and watercolors, and we decided to make a hybrid etching. So these are two different plates, and they're 8 inches by 8 inches each, and they're what we call tradigital prints. And so that's an etching key plate on top of a colored digital print, an archival digital print. And so the pieces come together nicely, but they're very playful because they're a little bit more sexual and sensual. They're figures and beautiful colors and composition, and just the line work has gotten very playful. It's another part of Albert, you know. And I have some personal pieces that he's given to me that are much more revealing of his inner wants and desires, I'll say.
Mm-hmm. What does Albert's artistic process look like?
Well, Albert, like I said, Albert works just about every day. So Albert works from, he goes for his daily walks. And so his Silver Lake series, and he works a lot from those images, he'll take his camera along and he'll find a composition of a home on a hill with some shrubbery and flowers surrounding it. And then he'll snap these pictures, and he'll take a lot of pictures. He'll come home and he'll do some renderings of it, some hand renderings, some drawings. And then he makes a selection of what he likes about them and then puts them together, and then he adds beautiful color schemes to it. Not that they aren't beautiful to begin with, but he enhances them. So he's a very good colorist, and he's a really good technician of printmaking techniques. He was a teacher for many years. When I began teaching in around 1990, and at the colleges here in Los Angeles, Albert had been teaching for about 20 years. And so I was given courses that I hadn't taught before, didn't have great knowledge of. Like, for instance, one course was a color theory course. And I understood color theory, I'd taken courses, but I had never taught it. So Albert was so generous because he gave me his whole set of handouts, brochures, samples, everything that I would need to start the course. He just gave them to me. Kindness.
Yeah.
And, it took me a semester or two to really understand all that, but he was like my teacher. He was my mentor and my teacher with that. He just opened up his heart and his work for me.
Wow. So this is after you knew him for a while.
Not that long. Maybe a couple of years. And we had visited each other's studios and so on and so forth. Another story is when I was probably in 1995 when Albert had bought a house in Tuscany, in the hills there, in a little village, and he mentioned that he'd been going to a printmaking facility there in Tuscany, in the mountains, and he says it's a retreat, and gave me all the information and said, you'd love it there. So I signed up. I went for 2 months, and because of Albert, I made that connection, and I created some 5 or 6 great pieces there, I thought. And also we had a lot of time to spend together because Albert would come. Albert lived not too far from where the workshop was, the retreat. So we would get together in the evenings and have dinners and go to restaurants, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And Albert had met all these friends there, so his friends became my friends. And I also went and stayed at his house for a few days and helped him set up his studio. physically and do some small little drawing prints while I was there.
This
And
is all in Tuscany?
yeah, in Tuscany, and meeting his neighbors that also adored him because he was so much fun, and open.
Yeah. And does he speak Italian?
Albert has learned to speak Italian. Yes, over the years he's there for 6 months out of the year for the last 20 years, so he's speaking it pretty good now. Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you've had some fun times with him in California too.
Oh yeah. Well, Albert has invited me over to his workshop and studio to see what he was working on and participate and kind of critique it, and also to have some dinners and with his partner David and some of my friends. And we also have another friend he introduced me to, and that was Ingrid, who is from Germany and comes in every year from Germany and prints in my shop here. And the three of us are pretty tight friends. He also introduced me to a host of other artist friends that we became longtime friends with and work with. One such artist who has recently passed away is a sweet artist in herself, Nancy Riegelman, was a good friend of Albert's, and Albert introduced me to her also. And she was my best customer for 25 years. She came in 3 times a year with projects to be printed and worked on. So it's a network that Albert has connected me with. Like I said, Albert is a really generous person, and in this COVID times, in the last couple of years, it's been a struggle keeping the doors open of Josephine Press and Christopher John Gallery. And Albert, on a couple of occasions, has sent plates over for me to have work when he could have made them himself. But he was trying to support us and pay me for doing the work for him. And also, one month, Albert, I got in the mail my month's rent.
Wow.
As a generous gift from Albert. Because he wanted to support printmaking, the shop, and what we were doing here. Plus, Albert's come by a few times, and we've worked. I showed him some new techniques that I came across or discovered, and we worked to incorporate it into his printmaking techniques and style. So we've become really good friends.
Is he still teaching?
Albert, no, he retired in 1995. And he had a large retrospective. He was teaching over at Mount St. Mary's College at the time, and down at FITM, Fashion Institute of Technology in Los Angeles here. He's charming, he's intelligent, he's caring, he's a dedicated artist, and that's what I like about him and his work.